Hello and welcome everybody. I hope y'all having a wonderful day today. In today's video I wanted to show off a build I made here known as the Verdigris Warden. This build is a strength and arcane build which can be incredibly powerful if played properly. The two main components that make up this build are the great shields that you use. In this case the Verdigris great shield, which is going to have a whopping 90 guard boost, which is just incredibly powerful. For anybody who doesn't know what guard boost does, the higher your guard boost is, the less stamina damage you take while guarding from any type of attack that hits you head on. Next up, we're going to be using the SwordLance. What the SwordLance is going to have going for it is an incredibly high bleed buildup, like just by default. And then if you have arcane points, you can make it go up even higher. And if you combine these two things, you can get a ton of damage out of them by just guarding and doing your poke attacks from behind the shield. What this is going to do is do a ton of bleed buildup and also do decent damage over time, which just means you got good DPS while not taking any form of damage from the front. And your stamina will be able to hold up pretty decently thanks to this shield. I had made this video previously, but unfortunately my save file got corrupted and it deleted this whole build, so I had to do it all over again. But it's totally fine, we're here now, and without further ado, let's get right into the build stats. So starting off with our build stats, we're going to have 50 in the vigor. This is just so that you can tank as much damage as possible. 10 in the mind, since we won't need it a whole bunch and we will have a talisman to regenerate it over time. 50 into endurance so that you can carry everything and block properly and not get shield broken, which is pretty much game over for you if that happens in PvP. But sometimes you can live it, but more often than not you might get hit by something that just does way too much damage. So 50 endurance will help out with that a lot. 49 strength is the minimum strength to wield the Verdigris Great Shield. So you could bring it a little bit lower if you want to wield a lighter shield and just want to run something else, which is totally fine. But I just have it at 49 to run this shield. Dexterity is at 11 to meet minimum requirements. I would recommend this so that you can actually use the SwordLance. 12 into intelligence so that you can cast Scholar's Armament, which is just going to make your shield block even more damage and take even less stamina damage, which is just always fantastic. 12 in the faith, which is not mandatory at all. You could actually put these 2 points anywhere else, but I have them into faith only because it helps me use a regeneration incantation, which is just passive health regen over time. So you can put those anywhere else, that's just my personal preference. Finally, we're going to have 35 into Arcane. This is just important so that your SwordLance builds up bleed quicker. If you want to maybe take those 2 points out of Faith into Arcane, that's perfectly fine. It'll just help you build up bleed even quicker, which is always nice. And next up, we'll be getting into the weapons, armors, talismans, and flask of wondrous physics. Starting off with our weapons, we're going to be using the Blood SwordLance. This is just because of its good range, good damage, and the bleed buildup, and it goes behind shields, so it has nice synergy. But if you don't want to run this, you can feel free to run whatever else attacks behind shields. And if you're up against an opponent that just doesn't take bleed damage, and maybe you don't want to attack behind shields, just find something that has good scaling with strength and arcane and just run that instead, which is always fair. You could run the Pruchesson's Cleaver, for example, and just do very nice physical damage with a little bit of magic damage behind it. The second slot doesn't really matter, run whatever you want here, I just happen to put this here. The Staff of Loss is going to help you pop Scholar's Armament on your shield, so it's pretty necessary. The shield's just here to tank a ton of damage and do its thing. The Bone Bow is going to be a way to chip damage opponents from a distance. The Dragon Communion Seal is going to be here so that you can cast incantations. The White Mask is here so that you can increase your AR whenever you proc a bleed. For armor, you could run whatever you want. You could probably run Rakshasas like full set, or even just run Leader's top and the rest be Rakshasa if you wanted to maximize damage, but that's up to you. For the talismans, we're going to have Lord of Blood's Exaltation, which just gives you even more damage after you proc a bleed. Spear Talisman is going to increase your damage while you're guarding. The Blessed Blue Dew Talisman is just going to regen mana over time, which you don't have to use this. You could use whatever else you want. For example, you could use the Great Jar Arsenal, the Dragon Crest Great Shield, or even something like a Ritual Shield Talisman or Ritual Sword Talisman. Anything's fine. Go for whatever you want right here. This is just here to give you more resources over time. For our last slot, we're going to be using the Great Shield Talisman, which is just going to boost our guarding ability, which is always handy since it decreases how much stamina we'll lose, even if just by a slight bit. Finally, for the Flask of Wondrous Physics, we're going to be running the Crimson Crystal tier and the Crimson Burst Crystal tier, which are just going to both get us our health back, one in a burst and then the other one over time, which just keeps our survivability up overall, and it's just nice. Next up, we're going to be getting into the different spells that we have equipped. So starting off, we're going to have Bestial Sling. This is just here to be a way to finish off opponents in PvP or break a bubble shield off people if they happen to have it. Swarm of Flies is going to help you proc more bleed damage, which can be helpful in PvE or PvP. Scholar's Shield is here so that you can increase your shield's overall damage negation. It's just very nice. Bestial Vitality is here so that we can recover HP over time. Heal is here to get you a little chunk of HP back so that you can convert your regenerating mana into health whenever you need it. And then Flame Cleanse Me is just gonna get like poison and scarlet rot off you, which can be incredibly detrimental if they just stay on you while you're guarding. Finally, for the last two spell slots, on anything else that you want, it's just open space. But that'll do it for the spell slots. Next up, I wanted to move into an invasion here, so without further ado, let's get right into it. And that'll do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoy it. A quick thing I want to add real quick is you guys probably noticed that I was changing shields throughout the invasions, and that's because I think it's healthy to just switch in between your shields for different scenarios for whichever shield you think will help in that moment, as you can just get the most efficiency out of different shields for different situations. If you're playing around a lot of edges, the Verdigris shield is going to be fantastic. Or if you just want to head on tank as much damage as possible, the Verdigris is going to be great at it. And if you're playing around an area where you could just lock it off with something like the, what's this thing called? Visage shield, where you could just lock off an entire area with straight flame damage, I would say go for that and just keep swapping in between shields for different scenarios. If you got mages on a ledge across from you just spamming stuff at you, just give them a little fire shot so that you can do some pressure back to them, or pull out the bow, or whatever you need to do. But overall, I hope you guys enjoyed as always, and have a wonderful day.